Cheers and enjoy the beers. Yes. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome back to the channel with me, Disco, once again coming at you live in front of the cans and bottles here on the bar, where I'm still audibly calling the Disco Arms. And the new live show, as I've called it, has made it to 78, and in my book, that's some kind of record. Now, I know I did that one on 45, but I like that record kind of analogy and dodgy puns as well, you know. So here I am with some music-based beers, as usual, 3 beers to review and look at. And as I say, a special number for me in order to help me out with these amusements. I've invited a very special guest along. He's agreed to come on and have a wee chat about music, beer, and all sorts. Please give a massive Disco Arms welcome to Jimbo of Ale and Audio. Good evening, sir.
Hello, how are you doing?
Not too bad. A bit knackered, a bit pushed. It's been a long old day. I guess you've had a few trials and tribulations as well. But yeah, welcome along. Thanks for popping in and agreeing to come and have a chat.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So you're fairly well used to like online stuff and talking to cameras and stuff like that, like doing your own YouTube channel and the podcast and stuff.
Yeah.
What I should do, what I was going to do is the lazy way of presenting is do your own introduction. Who are you? Why are you here? And what you're doing?
Yeah. So, I do have a YouTube channel as well. It's probably quite underused, if anything, because mainly it's a podcast that I do and now a radio station. So about 5 years ago, what are we on now? 5 years ago. Or just under 5 years ago, I started an Instagram account, as a lot of people did sort of during COVID, kind of just to log my beers, really, keep a record of what we're drinking. And this is before a new Untapped existed, which would have been a lot easier. But anyway, I was keeping a log on Instagram, and then Spotify, which is where I'd kind of, I'd always done podcasts before, kind of just chit-chatty podcasts about this and that with your friend, sort of silly games, silly news stories and stuff. And then Spotify brought out a new feature where you could have music in your podcasts. It was called Music and Talk. And I'd already done radio in the past, and I thought, this sounds good. It's like you could do a podcast, and it's more like a radio show. You could include music, and it let you put Spotify's music library into your shows, so you could choose songs from Spotify, incorporate within in your shows in between the talk and all that. So I started experimenting with that, and I thought, what shall I do it about? And I thought, well, beer. I'm enjoying beer, so I'll start talking about beer. So I did started off doing like a daily episode, maybe just mentioning one beer at a time, doing a few silly news stories, called it Ale and Audio. And I kind of did that as a daily thing to start off with, only sort of really short episodes. And then I kind of decided to start doing Friday just once a week. So, got quite a lot to, well, not quite a lot, but just to do one every day, I had to remember to do it. So I thought, if you do one on Friday, I'll just round up all the beers I've had and do it all in one. And I could have more music in the show and do more like a radio show. And at the same sort of time, I was looking for somewhere to work, because I got a job, but I was working from home like we all were because of COVID. And got the garden shed. And I thought, right, I'll convert that somewhere to work in, put my computer and stuff in. That was the plan. But unfortunately, it didn't go to plan, because I found on Instagram a lot amongst the beer community. There were a lot of people who had pub sheds, and this then turned into a pub shed. And so this ended up not being an office, but ended up being a pub shed. Eventually, I started finding people who, talking about the pub sheds that I'd seen on Instagram on my podcast, and then the pub shed people started to find my podcast and my episodes, and then we just grew into this big community of beer lovers and pub shed people. I did a weekly episode, and that's been going on ever since probably about 6 months after I started the initial, daily shows. It's been going on 4 years now or something like that nearly. And it grew into a massive thing. Music talk, beer talk, guests on. We featured pub sheds, we featured own bars, started going out and doing interviews with breweries and other industry professionals and stuff. And we do this Ale and Audio podcast, and it still comes out once a week on a Friday. The only problem we had is that just over a year ago in April, Spotify decided, you can't have music in your podcasts anymore. We're going to take away the feature where you use music, our music in your shows. We're not doing that anymore. We're turning that off.
That you pay for, presumably.
No, we didn't. But it was actually free. So, but for the listeners to be able to listen to the full music show on Spotify at the time, they had to pay for a premium subscription to Spotify. So without that, they'd just hear like a 30-second clip of our music, of each song, which was fine for some people. So a lot of people did pay Spotify to listen to our full music shows. So they shot themselves in the foot a bit because, we were like, what are we going to do? Because, we've been doing that for 4 years. If we just suddenly don't have music, that's going to be a little bit naff. So we found a new platform quite quickly, Mixcloud. People might have heard of it before. They allow you to have music in your show, in your stream music and stuff like that. And because they cover the rights for it, so we do pay Mixcloud, as in we pay a monthly subscription to be able to stream and have the music in the shows. But everyone unfortunately followed us there, so now we have our podcast on Mixcloud. It's on Spotify but without the music now. But we're fully on Mixcloud, as in terms of you can hear the full show with all the music on Mixcloud. At the same time we moved there, we thought to ourselves, it's a bit disappointing to tell our listeners they can't listen on that popular platform, Spotify, anymore. Everyone knows, everyone, loved. So what we decided to do is, well, not everyone, not me anymore. But what we decided to do is a bit of we thought, right, what can we do to make this more exciting then? What can we do that takes away the disappointment that we're moving off? Hi everyone, that we're moving off.
Probably in the comments and you see that all people.
I thought to myself, what can we do? Because we're moving off Spotify, it's a bit disappointing for people who've been used to listening on there. You've got to getting an audience to follow you to a new platform can be quite, tricky. So at that point we thought, well, why don't we go 24/7? And as well as have the podcast each week, why don't we have a full radio station dedicated to beer, home bars, pub sheds, and supporting independence in the industry? Because that's what we did. We launched a 24/7 beer themed radio station. It's got music covering every genre, generation. Kind of nothing, stuff that you'll have heard before, but kind of covering a lot of generations and a lot of genres. It's fully interactive. You can send pictures to our stream wall, which is live, and you can chat with other listeners. Listeners can submit their own content. So anyone who's listening, including yourself, Disco, if you want to send in a beer review or a bit of a clip saying, I've just had this beer, it was really nice, or I'm out and about at this festival and I've found this beer, or I've been speaking to these people. Anyone can submit content. We've got other podcasters who are chipping in and providing us content. We obviously play the Ale and Audio podcast out on there every Friday morning as a bit of a unique sort of thing. We've got specialist music shows. There's a punk pop show happening right now on Ale and Radio that's streaming at the minute.
We'll come on to that. We'll come on to that a little bit more a bit later. I've got some questions for you on that later on to go with obviously the Overtone collab that I'm going to get around to drinking because everybody else has tried it by now and I'm always a bit late with these things. If I may first of all, let's break a beer.
Yes.
Obviously the other point of this is the beer. So funnily enough, I've got a thing for that. Beer number one, please.
I'll only be joining you for one. I mean, I'll sit and watch you drink the beers, but I'll only have one beer tonight. I'm going to behave myself, but yeah.
Not a problem. Yeah, it's a school night or whatever. But yeah, I sort of got into the habit of doing 3 beers as a little mini session, mostly just to get through the beers in the stash so that I can actually get the reviews, because I've run out of time and talent getting video reviews done, and we sort of ended up doing more YouTube stuff than sort of Instagram stuff. So I kind of ended up doing that, and yeah, run out of time and talent. So now I do the kind of lives to do it, really.
Yeah. I mean, there's always chance you'll twist my arm and I'll end up having a second. You know, it's easily done.
Well, what have you got in? What have you got in a glass in that case?
So I have got a Stewart Brewing New Relic and Mosaic IPA. So I believe, I mean, it's won a beer award last year, as they won quite a few awards. I think Stewart Brewing did. Yeah. But I believe this is an Aldi beer, or picked up from Aldi. It was somebody gifted it me and suggested I try it. So no time like the present, is there? And I like the fact that they have the Indie Beer logo as well on the can.
Yeah. Well, in true kind of beer review style, let us know what you think of it. As Mr. David Wilson always reminds me, I do the photograph. I take the photograph live so I can put it on Instagram tomorrow. So if you do the beer review whilst I do that, that covers any gaps in.
I'm also very good at forgetting to take photographs of my beers. And just taking a picture of my empty glass next to the empty can.
Yeah. See, I have people to remind me now. David Wilson always manages to get me up and do it. So yeah. So what do you think of the beer?
It's very nice, really nice. It's I want to say it's a little bit more. No, maybe not. I was thinking it was a bit more piney than I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
Maybe not. So a second sip, maybe not. Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, the head's gone down on it really quick, which is quite. Maybe I should have done a faster pour. Yeah, it's quite a still one, but it's good.
I'm never too sure about Mosaic. It's one of those that gets put in, and I just use the term grapefruit often, and I'm not a big fan of grapefruit.
Yeah, it doesn't taste. It's not. I mean, it's obviously single hop, so you're just getting there's not massive amount going on in it, but it is nice, easy drinker. It's going down quite well, refreshing. You know, to say it's yeah. I mean, that wouldn't. I kind of want to say if that was in a bottle, you'd be like, expect it. You know what I mean? Because you know the bottle, bottled beers, like what the traditional breweries, real ale breweries, that kind of bottle their beers, don't they? A lot of time. If that was in a bottle, I wouldn't be thinking. I'd just like, oh yeah, that's what it tastes. that's that sort of taste. Not always that for it to come out of a can. It's sort of like, oh yeah, that's
lacks a little bit of condition, maybe, and a bit of carbonation that should be fluffing it up a bit. Well, I've gone Scottish as well. I've gone Vault City. A beer called Strawberry Fields, hence the music connection had to be done. I saw it in Waitrose and I thought, well, that'll work, won't it, for a first beer? I believe sours aren't really your thing, though.
They're not, no.
Cheers, isn't it?
Cheers. I have really tried sours. I've given them the chance. Look, I don't think it's the case that I'm just. I need to make sure I keep trying them. That's the thing, because maybe 20% of the time I'll find one that's okay. I could have 10. I'll dislike 8 of them, and 2 of them will be all right. The best one I've had was a Vault City one, actually. I mean, obviously they are kings of sour beer anyway, but it was the Bouquet, which was like based on the
Fast. I missed out on that one in the end, but yeah.
It was expensive. It was like £9 something a can. In my one of my bottle shops in Sheffield talked me into it, and then they were like, "Oh, go on, I'll try it then. That's £9, please." So
this one is pretty good if you like a strawberry sorbet. or strawberry ice lollies. That's what I'm getting off of this. It's not massively sour, only in the way that some strawberries are a little bit tart, and it's got that thick, voluptuous kind of Vault City body. It's just like drinking sorbet.
Looks good.
So if you like strawberries, that's not a bad one.
Yeah.
But if you don't like sour, to be fair, I'm kind of with you mostly on the sours. I don't like anything too sour. It's got to be more fruity tartness. So I know where you're at, but I do try them, and I do try them like as for beer reviewing purposes. I try them based. I buy a lot of beers based on the name of the beer.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because I do try and I do.
Me and Mersey don't agree on a lot of things apart from beer, so yeah, I'm not surprised. Like Spotify.
Yeah, yeah, it's difficult with sours because you don't want to like you don't want to like when you. I try and limit how much I drink. Obviously, doing a beer podcast and stuff, and the radio and stuff, you can get carried away and you can just want to be boozing all the time. And I've got a little one, and I'm trying to look after my own health and stuff. So
yeah.
I find the problem sometimes with sours is that I don't want to use the beer that I might have, or one of my few beers I might have in a night and on an evening on a sour beer. That's the trickiness to it. So it means I don't try maybe as much as I could, but I'm not going to push myself too hard to like them because I think I just know it's not my thing. But occasionally there will be one that goes, oh, you know what? That's nice. It's a refreshing change. Sun's shining. I want something different. Might go down quite well, but yeah.
I have much the same on double IPAs and triple IPAs usually because I don't want to be wasting my money on what may end up be getting smashed around the face with a grapefruit beanbag. But obviously, that said, the beer's coming up. We shall see how that goes.
Yeah, when it comes to the sort of bigger strength stuff, your dippers and stuff like that, and the good thing about them is that you can have, again, if I'm trying to kind of look after how many I'm having and not go too mad or whatever, particularly because it's so easy to come into this pub shed and put something on put some sport on or put some music on in here and just want to sit there and go for it. So the good thing about having a dipper or something, bigger tip or whatever, is that you can have one and you can really take your time with it and enjoy it and still feel like you've had a few sort of thing in a sense. You've had maybe more than, whereas, so I do, that's probably one weak spot really. I do like a dipper. But then if you've already had if you've already had 3 or 4 session beers and then you're like, oh, I really fancy that dipper as well, that's when you get into trouble. So they are quite nice just to have as maybe if you're only having 1 or 2 beers, it's nice to have a couple of dippers, I think.
Yeah, I'm getting slowly more into them, but I'm tending to go towards Antipodean hopped ones that are more like tropical and kind of juicy and fruity rather than grapefruit and pine. But not everybody's drinking heavily. I do normally ask what everybody else is drinking. Mersey Beers is on a special effects from Brooklyn Brewery at 0.4%. So yeah, we can all drink low alcohol beers.
Yeah. I mean, that's where
as always, David Wilson evens up the balance by being on a 10% Origin Smalley from Siren. Good man yourself, sir. Good man.
Nice one. I mean, I think something I'm really into DDH beers as well, because and that sort of 6.5-7% sort of spot, because they're kind of getting that sort of juicy thickness in the body, that creamy sort of body that you'd get from a dipper with it being a bit lower ABV. You know what I mean? So that's a proper sweet spot, I think, at the minute.
Right. As long as that double dry hopping doesn't mean just double helpings of grapefruit, I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm quite keen on the grapefruit, to be fair. But yeah.
It's a name you might recognise. Pablo Disco Bar is in the house. Welcome. What a great name.
Yeah, Pablo is one of the first pub sheds that we featured in the very early days of the podcast when I just started finding all these people, which it's just grown into an amazing community. And like Pablo's, honestly, I call him one of my best friends because He's just brilliant, and obviously we went and did the Overtone beer together. Pablo's actually on his third incarnation now of a home bar, so he's on number 3. Yeah, he's moved a couple of times, and he's got number 3 now. So we actually feature that in tomorrow's Ale and Audio podcast. Pablo tells us a bit about it. It's really unique as well in terms of the sort of what he's got. It's like a full backyard kind of courtyard sort of home bar. It's really cool. Yeah.
Wow. And he's going large tonight, so he's having one with you by the looks of it, 8.4%, and then an 8%, and then a couple of overtones, which aren't going to be light, probably.
No.
Good stuff. Mersey says they just released a Wee Bucky, which is a 4.5% version. That one, which was 10.5%, probably right, it was £9. Exactly. Yeah. So that's a bit more.
No, I'll have to. I'll have to give the Wee Bucky a try, because I said I did. That is my favourite sour beer to date, really. So I'll have to look out for that one. Yeah,
there's a couple as well. A couple of other ones like Scottish-led breweries that are doing that kind of thing, and iron brew type sours as well. And I was just never quite get around to them. I should do. I'm smashing this one down. This is like drinking sorbet. It's nice. It's like really, it's quite sweet. A lot of people don't like sweet. I like sweet beers. I like fruit beers. Bit controversial, but there you go. I'll tell you what then, let's get on to talking about music, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't mind, a little story I've not told yet on this channel is relating to beer and music, and mainly because I couldn't find the beer again to do it. But year before last, I actually ended up on an internet radio station, but in Melbourne, Australia, of all places, because a mate lives out in Melbourne, and he'd done it, and he'd gone on the show and been asked the questions, and he said, "Oh, Disco will do it. He knows a bit about music and that." And so the bloke messaged me, and we somehow managed to, with a heavy lag over the phone lines, do a show about music where he asked me. So I thought I'd do, again, lazy presenting, but I wonder if I just ask you the questions that he asked on that show.
Yeah.
And then we get a sort of heads. It's a bit, there's no wrong answers, obviously, but if you're up for a quick personal music journey.
Okay.
So this was Radio Caram was the show over in Melbourne, and Mark does a thing called You Talking to Me, where he just asks these questions. Quite simply, the first one is, what was the first single or album you ever purchased, and where from?
Oh no! Oh, this is not good. This is really not good. Oh, I wish that had not come up. We're not starting well, I'm afraid. I love music, and I've got the widest taste in music in terms of like the stuff I like. I like everything from all eras, and to be honest, I don't really listen to much new stuff anymore. Which I think everyone gets to a certain age and you sort of stop listening to new stuff, don't you? Even the kind of genres that you like. Unfortunately, the first ever single I bought, I should have been stopped by my parents, and it was Bob the Builder. Can you fix it?
Well, I'm assuming you weren't like 27 at this stage. I'm assuming you were like 9. That's not exactly.
I'm pretty sure I was still too old to be buying it, because I didn't even watch Bob the Builder. Like, Bob the Builder was not for. It wasn't my like. It was like my childhood viewing was, as a kid, were like things like Fireman Sam. This is kind of like, I don't know, I must have been maybe like 13, 14, and I don't know why I bought it. Maybe it was just, I don't know. No idea. Maybe I've got in pocket money and I thought, what could I waste it on? And I don't know. No idea.
Well, I don't think that's bad. It was a popular song. You're a kid. There's nothing wrong with that. Pablo says this was Kylie Minogue, which is, also.
I really wish I could say it was something different, but it wasn't.
Does it get any better with albums then? What was your first album?
Is that the next question, or we'll throw that next?
Well, you can decline any of these questions if it's
it does get a bit better. I didn't buy an album until quite a few years after that, and again, it was probably when I mean, I grew up in the LimeWire era, shall we say, and BearShare and all that kind of stuff. So as a teenager, I was downloading music very naughtily, illegally, obviously. Sorry, everyone was doing it.
Stuff too.
But I do remember when I went to college and started actually liking music more, and kind of all that had passed, and people actually wanted to own the CDs and stuff like that again. I remember going out and we all went to go and pick a couple of albums each, and I picked at the same time. So my first albums were three all at the same time. I bought them all at the same time. It was The Killers, Hot Fuss. It was Razorlight, their first album. I can't remember the name of it. And then it was Keen's first album. So those were my three first albums that I bought, and I bought them all at the same time. So I'm pretty impressed with that, because that's made up, I think, for the poor choice in single, yeah.
Yeah, Dave Wilson wishes to point out there is still new music being released every month, and I would agree with him on that, because wait till you see some of the list that I'm going to send you, because it's it's chart music and pop music you eventually fall out of love with, because it ends up being a bit shite. But loads of new music out on the undergrounds.
Yeah, I mean, obviously one of the things we do is I do try and keep up with it for the radio purposes. Otherwise, we're not going to have anything new on the station. So I do keep up with new. I try, but what I end up doing is looking for music from bands that I already like. You know what I mean? I do just sort of scour what's new, and then I go and download a bunch of new tracks for the radio quite often. Unfortunately, one of the features that we have on our show is basically people choosing the songs for the show each week. And a lot of our listeners are quite good at picking some new ones from, from new. Because I've always, although I like everything, my probably go-to was always like indie rock, that kind of stuff. So quite often we do have, listeners who are choosing new tracks, and that sends me off to listen to bands that I've not listened to that much before or never before. And like in terms of newer indie bands, I like like the Lathams. No, they're not particularly new, but they've been around in the last sort of 5 years, and they're still releasing new music now. The K's, they're really good. I've heard a few of their stuff, bits of their stuff recently through song listeners choosing songs and stuff. So I do try, but it's just that I don't know. It's just that you always end up going back to the older stuff. I think it's an age thing for me. I don't know. Like I just hit that thing where I keep, I
was going to say, wait till you see my list of songs. If I do the hour that we were talking about, I've got a list of songs that you've probably never heard of from bands that are still current, still producing stuff. But I do.
Go for that way, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got two lists just in case one isn't appropriate, but I guess nothing's inappropriate particularly. But
not really. Not if you listen to Dirty Pints on a Friday night at 10 o'clock with Kev from the Glory Hole Garden Pub. Tell you what, some of his choices are quite shocking.
I usually miss out on that, but yeah, I've got to go back and catch them all up as well. No, Hopper is in. Hopper reviews. Face popping in as always. I'm not going to play. I'm going to plug the Hopper anthem. I'm not going to play it. I misread that because I haven't got it lined up. But yeah, he's got his own song on his channel. Does a lot of good stuff. Beer reviews, very AI led, which is helpful and also very very funny. So I'll plug Hopper quite happily. The original lineup of Skid Row. I don't know how many lineups of Skid Row. It's only a band that I've heard of but don't know about. Pablo says decent trilogy of albums. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think my first single I think was Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire," which is just as cheesy and terrible. Even though it was Freiheit Keeping the Dream Alive, which very few people have heard of, but that was late 80s for you.
You can't get worse than Bob the Builder, so.
I don't think it could have been Mr. Blobby.
Well, yeah. I tell you what, if I were born any earlier, it would have been that one.
Well, I did buy that CD single, but only a month or so later when it was in the 99p bargain bin at Woolworths. So I sort of get out of that one.
At least they were probably for charity, so we can kind of let itself off a little bit, can't we?
Well, yeah. What's the best gig you've been to?
Sorry, you just cut off there slightly. What was that question?
What's your best gig and what's the first gig you've been to?
First gig was, oh God, right. I'm gonna have to give two answers because you can't decide your first gig, can you? If your parents book, take you to something that's at the local arena and you've got no choice. It was some sort of like smash hits, not smash hits, but smash hit style concert or something, and it were a band called the All Stars or something, and they did things like Bump in the Night and Land of Make Believe, which I think Bucks Fizz did originally. So that was kind of my first one I got taken to, not necessarily my choice. The first gig I went to, completely my choice. Just really trying to think to make sure I'm right. Yes, it was. I was going to say the Arctic Monkeys, and then I thought, no, it wasn't. But then I've realised, no, it was. So I went to see a friend's band at a pub called The Pheasant at Lane Top in Sheffield, which is now a KFC. And it was a friend in my year. So we were year 11 at the time. It was a girl rock band sort of thing, and she was on drums. And they were one of the support acts, and the main band were on later on. I don't know what they were called at the time, but it was only maybe a year or two later that my friend said, "Do you know the band who were the main act that night?" It was the Arctic Monkeys. And this was well before. I mean, Alex Turner wasn't even singing. It was a guy called Glenn. And he was the singer, and then he left, and Alex Turner started. They weren't called the Arctic Monkeys. They were basically doing, I think they did like The Darkness, I believe, in a thing called Love and stuff like that as cover songs. So they were just starting off as well. So my first gig was inadvertently seeing the Arctic Monkeys before they were Arctic Monkeys, but also my friend's band. And then I did then, go and see the Arctic Monkeys, one of their first gigs a few years later as well. So yeah.
Super. David Wilson's first printer with parents was Johnny Cash, but David Wilson has got a couple of years on us. I've got a few years on you.
What a first gig then.
Well, yeah, sounds good. I
watched Walk the Line not long ago. A great film.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and still better than mine because my first gig I think was Status Quo or Meatloaf, and I'm still not sure which one it was. But again, more cheesy pop kind of stuff. I don't like to ask like what's your favorite music, and same as I don't really ask what's your favorite beer because it's so subjective and all over the place. But because it was on the Radio Karam list, he went a different way. He was like, imagine it's Saturday night, you're getting ready to go out, you're getting pumped up. What's the one song you put on to really get you going?
Oh, that's tough. Oh, well, I say tough. One song. Oh God, I think I'm gonna have to stick to my my Sheffield roots for this one, and it's weird because I probably wouldn't choose this to get me going for a night out. I'd probably put something a bit I don't know, a little bit more cheesy, dancey, not cheesy, but kind of like, a bit of dance music or something to get me in the mood for going out or something. But if I'm going to choose a favourite song, I'd probably choose something from Pulp. So I've got Jarvis Cocker, Richard Hawley behind me. So I'd probably choose something from Pulp. If I'm going to choose just a favourite song, I think. What I do like is that, although I like me indie and me rock, and I really like 80s music as well, and like kind of like new wave 80s synth and all that kind of stuff. So what I really like is indie music that kind of blends that, indie rock that kind of blends that. And I think Pulp have always done that really well. They've got the keyboards and synthesizers. Same as the Killers, I've seen Killers once as well, and they do that. They've got like a lot of electro synth sort of stuff in the song, so it's like a blend of two of my favorite types of music, that sort of stuff, really.
And also, I guess the Sheffield connection as well. Is it a big part of that, or was it just purely coincidental?
No,
be your favourite Sheffield band?
No, I mean, I do love them, but yeah, there's a big Sheffield. You know, the fact it's someone from Sheffield. The Arctic Monkeys are from my my actual village where I grew up, just like about 5-minute drive away, if that. They're from there anyway, so I kind of do follow them and support them almost a bit like in a football team sort of way. Whereas Pulp, I was kind of introduced to them when I was quite young, and I heard them on the radio when I used to be on the way to school and stuff like that in my mum's car, and I liked them anyway, even before I knew they were from Sheffield. So, yeah.
Well, that's better than me, because my favourite Sheffield band is the Everly Pregnant Brothers.
Brilliant. No oven, no pie. Yeah, chip pan on fire. Oh, it's my personal favourite. Stuck in the Little Wheel, yeah.
Yeah. I have to. I have to confess, though, I don't follow them as much as I follow the similarly eminent Barnsley band. The best thing to come out of Barnsley since the A61, as Jarvis Cocker said, of the Bar Steward Sons of Valdunican. They do a very similar kind of
Lancaster Hot Pots either. I think they're
very similar. Exactly, that would be a great trio.
We've actually had Sean, who was the lead singer of the Everly Pregnant Brothers basically since they started, and I think he's only just stopped in the last year. But we had him on the podcast actually on a feature called Desert Island Beers, where a bit similar to this really. We ask questions, but it's about the one brewery you'd drink from for the rest of your life if you had to choose one brewery. Obviously your Desert Island Beer is the last question, but we asked people to choose an album that they'd sit and knock back a few beers to. We ask about your favourite bar or pub if you couldn't go one for the rest of your life, your favourite style of beer, cocktail, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Desert Island Beers.
Similar sort of thing. Well, tell you what, Pablo's just cracked open some Gimme Some, so tell you what I'm going to do, because I finished that one anyway, so I'm going to go on to... Come on, StreamYard, don't let me down. No, it hasn't worked. What's going on?
Well, a
little glitch.
I do have one here it's one that I've recently drank, not tonight, but it's stacked up on my recently drank, ready to go in the recycling pile. But yeah.
Oh no, it's not StreamYard. It's my fault. Beer number 2, please.
There we go.
Pressed the wrong button, didn't I? I've only been doing this show for 78 times. You think I know what I'm doing by now? But yes, of course. Gimme Some. Collab with Overtone. I always get confused with Alien Radio and Alien Audio, and I still have to think about which ones. One's so I'll crack this in. How did this come about? This collab?
Yeah. So Overtone for those that have listened to the podcast. Pablo is a regular contributor to the podcast, but he's also a character as well in a good way. And he always has loved Overtone. He just loves their beers. Now, because Pablo's a Geordie, the way he says, I'll try and do it and probably make a complete mess of it, but he always says Overtone. He always says it in his that was terrible, but he always says it in that Geordie way. So because he's so obsessed with him, he mentions them all the time on our podcast. For ages, people who were listening actually thought Overtone were from Newcastle, from the northeast. So this became like a running joke, because they're not. I mean, obviously in Glasgow.
Do that again, anyway, Jimbo. Do that again.
I know. I thought that. Well, that was weird, wasn't it? Do you get like fireworks and stuff if you do stuff?
No, I don't know. I've seen it on other people's things occasionally, but it's never happened on mine. So
weird. But yeah. Anyway, so it was so because of that, and sort of running joke we had, and we with the podcast.
I'm going to do the photograph for us to step off screen, but keep going.
Yeah, the podcast had been going like over 4 years or whatever, and we were just like I think we need to do a collab beer, and Pablo reached out to Overtone, obviously because that was the first one. The first ones he was going to approach were definitely Overtone, and he reached out to him, and they said yeah. Or we were obviously blown away by it. There were a few twists and turns because the staff member at Overtone who Pablo was communicating with ended up leaving. Right. So we kind of thought it was dead in the water, after that. And Pablo carried on, and he, stuck with it and got through to the, other members of staff there, and kept plugging away. And they made it happen. And in all honesty, and I'm sure Overtone will probably agree, with this, but I think they were being sort of nice to us, which they were. We were so grateful that they let us do a collab beer with us. But I think they were being nice to us, and I'm guessing they may have thought, they support us a lot. They always talk about our beer. Let's do them a favour and sort of thing. And right. I don't think they quite expected what happened with the beer, because it just took off. It became this sort of like, amongst our community at least, it became like this viral thing. And particularly, we chose the name because we always have a different song that opens our podcast each year on a Friday, every Friday morning. We pick a different song as in for the year. Yeah. So for a full year, we'll have the same song that opens the show. And that's to kind of get people feeling like this is their Friday anthem. Do you know what I mean? Kind of build that familiarity. So every time they hear that on a Friday, they know Friday started, the weekend started. So we decided to call it Gimme Some after a song that we were going to use for this current year. Gimme Some by an artist called Brendan, although it was originally by Jimbo. Bit of a originally like a 70s disco-y hit, and then Brendan kind of added a bit more to it as well. And and it's just a really catchy song. It's really cheesy, really catchy, but for a beer name, we think it works perfectly. And it just caught on. And the fact that it got released in January, we were a little bit like, a January beer? Oh, God, are we going to struggle to, get people to buy this, with it being January and dry January and all that? But we ended up sort of jokingly kind of putting ourselves against putty in a jokey way. Obviously, there's no way we were going to outsell putty or out-hype it, but
I don't know. There's a few cans of putty. There's a few cans of putty still available. Is there any of this available anywhere? Is it like it's been popular?
It'll be floating about here and there, but I think because of that kind of like because we had that sort of jokey hype against putty, and obviously the fact that we've got so many amazing people in our community who support the podcast and what we do, and we all feel part of it. It's not just it's not just me. It's everybody who puts it together. Everybody wanted a bit of it, and you know what? I mean, you've tasted it. Are you surprised? Do you like it? I mean, I don't know how.
Not yet. I just had a sniff, and it's very similar to what I've been smelling all day, because we was packaging a pale ale today, and it's got a very similar hop aroma, but it doesn't seem to. I often judge it by aroma when it's going to be too hoppy, but it doesn't seem too bad. So cheers.
Cheers.
You'll let me put it down my neck and see what we get.
Oh, I'm jealous. I have got some, but they are not. They're in the sort. They're in the cool box, which it's an electric cool box. But it's not as cold as a fridge where I move them across to. When I want to drink them. So yeah.
So that's got a really interesting mix for me. It's got that kind of tropical fruit straight away, and then it goes dangerously close to grapefruit for my palate. I wouldn't like to guess the hops on there. It seems to be a bit of a mix of hops on that.
Yeah. So let me remember, because we've done 2 collab beers. That's where it starts getting confusing. I know that there's Citra, Cryo Citra, Luminosa, and Strata in that one.
Bang on, 100%. I've just read that myself. Yeah, spot on.
There you go. I've got a can. I could have just looked, but no, I didn't. Yeah. I think you kind of get like a slight, is it like, do they call it like a candied sort of finish to it slightly with the Strata, which Overtone themselves said they wish they'd added a little bit more to that. I mean, we think it's perfect. I mean, we love it. We're blown away by it. It has changed as beers do since it was first released. We were drinking it really fresh, but it has changed. I think the Citra is a bit stronger than it used to be. But no, we're really impressed with it, and it's got that Overtone backbone and that body that you get with Overtone beers.
Yeah, there's quite a running joke in here about Citra being my absolute hop nemesis, general all-time disliked beer, but it's because some breweries, I don't know whether they overdo it or what. There are one or two beers with Citra in that I find perfectly drinkable as long as it's balanced and doesn't go too close to grapefruit. I'm not sure about Strata normally, but I think there's a good balance on the tropical and grapefruit. And it is a nice beer. It's a good beer. Just for me, those hoppy notes, I have to be honest, touch too much. But I know people like that, so I say it's a good beer.
Yeah,
I'm not, you know.
Well, everyone's different, aren't they? And like I said, beers like music. You like stuff or you don't, or you can deal with it, or it's that kind of thing, isn't it? I mean, it'd be interesting to see, because obviously the beers that you won in our giveaway, that was our Ale and Radio collab, which came a few months after for our first birthday radio. There's some similarities, but then there's quite a few differences as well. So you get a little bit more of a piney bitterness to that one, which obviously a lot of people really like that, and some people don't like that at all. But no, that's also gone down really well. I mean, both beers that we've done, we're quite happy with the the feedback on it. So and ultimately we're not doing that much in terms of brewing. We're just sort of like going along to support, and and it's good. And that's the good thing about it. It's nice to support independent breweries. Overtone, still very independent in terms of the size of the setup they've got, huge, massive, but in terms of the staff and the actual team and the people running the show, small, very small, very independent. Whereas Bayonet, where we went to do who were based in Northallerton, Bayonet, who we went to do the radio beer with, is literally a one-man band in a garage. But how he gets his beers, where he gets them, how he gets them so far, he does all the canning himself. No machine. Well, he's got the machine, but it's a canning machine. They just have to do it manually by hand, sort of thing. He does all the social media. He sticks the labels on himself. He goes to events and festivals. He does the posting, the packaging, and he's in the army. You think, how is he doing this? So
okay.
Yeah, he's still in the army. So
I thought it was army themed because he was ex-army, and there's a lot of the cans and the names are army themed. I didn't realize he was still doing that as well. Right?
Yeah. He's still. I mean, obviously, he's hoping, because you retire a bit earlier in the army and stuff. So he's hoping that eventually he can, make the brewing thing his full-time thing. He's got a baby on the way as well. Obviously not him, his wife, but he's incredible, and he's running the beer festival in Northallerton in the summer. So how he's doing what he's doing is just unbelievable. So again, to support him, who's very independent, Overtone are, but this is a one-man band, so it's been really good to do that, really. So yeah, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah. So you're doing some support for that as well, for the Northallerton for the Northallerton Beer Festival. Yeah,
so we are like we're gonna because we've worked with Bayonet, done the radio beer and stuff. We've sort of said, well, we'll be your sort of media partners, and we'll turn up at the event and we'll do some coverage, which we do a lot of events anyway. But it's nice to kind of be partnered up with them and have our name out and about, and we'll take a stand up there and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's good. We want to try and get to more festivals, and that's what's such a good thing, because it is such a community project. It's so doable compared to if it was just me. I mean, nobody wants to just hear one voice anyway. You want that kind of multitude of people and voices and stuff. So it's nice that we've got people all over the country who want to contribute and help out, and I can send stickers out and leaflets to people who want to go to beer festivals and sort of wave our flag for us and sending stuff to the radio, while obviously making sure we know who you are as well, and telling us who you are and who you're reporting for, and it's just a nice thing. Like,
I haven't got me stickers, but I've got my t-shirt up there. I've got my t-shirt up for the wall.
Good.
Thanks very much indeed for that, by the way. Like as you said, I was very shocked and very pleased to win on and especially because it was so random as well. I love the little randomizer wheel. I haven't won anything on Instagram for a long time.
Yeah,
bit of a saga. No thanks to Royal Mail cans. It was kind of funny after a while.
So we was at it was actually our little birthday bash that night down in we did it in Brew Ashby in Ashby de la Zeus, which I never say very well, but we've weirdly we've got, you know, although obviously the station's in Sheffield, but we've got probably more listeners in the sort of Midlands area, because we are so dispersed. I mean, if anyone wants to have a look at, you know, we've got a really good website, which is because again, it's not just me that does all this. There's a couple of people who in the sort of closer team who do a bit more in the background, and one of those is Aidan, and he does all our techie stuff. So he brings our interactive stream wall to life, which is currently down at the minute. One of the reasons I need to reset my system tonight after I've done this is to get that working. The radio is working, but the stream wall is down at the minute, and it's really interactive. People can send pictures to it, and we've got beer news on there. I call it Sky Sports for pissheads. So we've got like beer news on the, you know, running along the bottom. We put, you know, we can have you know, people's messages up there. Like I said, people's pictures. The now playing button, what's coming up. You know, we're hoping in the future breweries may want to advertise on it and stuff as well. Obviously, independent breweries. You know, we've got a great website that partners it all as well. So there's an offers and discounts page on the website. So again, we only put independent brewery stuff on there, but they're welcome to use that and post their offers to it. You know, to help get their deals and things in front of people. They can post their events there, news stories. Yeah, it's like a one-stop shop for everything, really. So if anyone wants to check that out, then yeah, please do.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as I said to you before, I think on the live stream on the radio, I often will just put the phone up on the wall whilst I'm cleaning out a fermenter or something, and I can just listen away in the background, and like usually some good tunes coming up.
You've so, you know, I said I was going to have the one tonight. Well, I'm definitely going to crack another one. I'm going to have a small one.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not going to stop a man having a beer at any stage. So if I can, if you can blame it on me, then I'll take it on the chin.
Oh, I don't want to go further. I'll tell you what, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick, and I'm going to go for a second Stewart Brewing.
Okay. What we got there?
So this.
Well, I guess.
So this is something else I don't have as much of anymore. Well, again, I don't drink enough of this, but I should go back to it, because it's not that I don't like them. It's just that I tend to not get them as much anymore. But a West Coast, go for a West Day.
Well, I tell you what, let's do this then. You deserve a beer number 2, please.
Beer number 2, yeah.
West Coast again, a part of my hop nemesis for going too close to pine and grapefruit. But I will try them now and again. Usually based on beer name, especially, and this is one for Pablo Disco Bar as well. As you know, you probably know, I have a little bit of a penchant for beers with disco in the name, and I wonder if Pablo Disco Bar does as well.
Yes. Yeah, and Pablo's got his he does his discos on a Friday night on Instagram. Actually, he does an Instagram live. He's got his own show on the radio as well. He does like a 70s, like, you know, it's a sort of classic 70s disco show on a Saturday night. But on a Friday on Instagram, he does like a live sort of DJ set, and it's kind of more modern disco, if you know what I mean, which is really cool. So he's doing that tomorrow night. Yeah, from the Disco Bar.
Yeah.
This is poured a lot better. The head's stayed on it.
Cheers.
There you go. Cheers.
Yeah, let me know what you think. Do the review. And don't forget the photo.
Don't forget the photo, yes.
Hey, Stu's popped in from the Lager Logs. I presume it's Stu. Good evening. We've got some Scottish heavy beers on here tonight, Stu. There we go. Got the photograph. Yeah. Yeah, it's typical West Coast. Not too piney though.
not too bitter. Yeah, nice and drinkable. It's not. In terms of the colour was quite similar as well. It's not too massively dissimilar to the first one, really.
Okay, well, it looks about the right colour. It's got an orangey tinge, so it looks about right.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the other. I have still got a dreg in this last one, so
yeah,
it's almost like I meant to do that. Yeah, there's definitely more fruitiness in the mosaic as you'd expect. Whereas this is probably, I'd say, more citrus in this one.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, and obviously slight more, well, there is more pine in this one and the bitterness, but it's not too much. Like sometimes I don't really like a drying beer too much. Whereas this isn't too bad. This is all right.
Really good. Yeah, I often find that kind of piney sort of grapefruit pithy kind of thing ends up being a bit kind of drying and not that refreshing. So I think I prefer West Coast to New England's just because I think they've got that better orange kind of citrus rather than grapefruit. But
my desert island beer is a classic New England, and I had the last one of it that I've got actually the other day. Sadly, drank it. I've been keeping it for a while, and it's Thornbridge's Jamestown. I don't know if you've had that before. It was. I
haven't been back to Thornbridge for too long actually, but
it's really good. It's New England. It's 6.5%, I think now. I know they changed the ABV. It went up and down, but they put it back up to the original. I think it's 6.5. Might even be 6.8. But it's quite a thin in body. It's quite a light, so it's like in a good way. It's like it's not one that sits heavy, so you can just drink quite a lot of them. And I just loved it. So I've always said that with my desert island beer. But then the other day I went to a bar in Sheffield called Wildcard, which is a huge, big sports bar. And I went in there on Ecclesall Road. It was my missus who wanted to go in there. She said missus wanting to go in a sports bar. I was like, really? But she said the cocktails in there are really good. And it's one of those bars where they've got this sort of, the bar's in the middle, and then they've got a big column behind the bar, surrounds TVs all around the bar. So wherever you sit around the bar, you can see the TVs. It was really cool. And typically you go in those kind of places and you expect rubbish beer, don't you? You know. But I was surprised. They had a decent lineup of beer. It was all right, and I had a Styropramen in there. The sun was shining. I thought I'll have a Styropramen, but then I went around the other side and they had Salt Dew and they had a couple of Thornbridge beers. So the second beer I had was Green Mountain, which I've had before plenty of times, but it just proper. I just enjoyed it the other day so much more than it's always been a great beer, but I just really thought it was really nice the other day, and I was starting to think, do I prefer this now to Jamestown? So I'm in a bit of a dilemma at the minute as to whether I'm, I don't know, but I've always avoided
Green Mountain. I've never had it despite a general love for beers with green in the name as well, but it just strikes as too hoppy for me. Yeah, I can quite happily drink Jaipur, and I don't know why that is. It makes no sense.
Jaipur is an interesting. We've had this chat before, so I remember having Jaipur. So when I first ever worked in a pub, that used to be on the bar, and when I started going out, I used to see it quite a lot. Obviously, it was always cask. You'd only really ever see it on cask. Back then, I'm talking 2007, something like that, maybe. And you'd only ever, 2007, 2008, you'd only ever really see it on cask. And I used to like it then, and it was really nice. Yeah. And then I think, and it's still a really good beer, but I find it really. I don't think it's the same on keg, and certainly not out of can either. I think it's a bit odd. I like the DDH version that they've done, which is slightly different because they've made a different beer. It kind of tastes all right, but I never got on with the canned version of Jaipur. The cask version really nice, but I've always found it a little bit. Yeah, maybe I'm just going back to when I used to have it on cask, and it always tastes different on that anyway. Obviously, so yeah.
Often, yeah. Beer news for you. David Wilson says Thornbridge are opening another bar in Sheffield.
Yeah, They are. So there's a couple of disused buildings on Fargate, which has just had a big renovation. So this is not far from where the where the cathedral is, and then going up to the town hall. They've just done all that area in Sheffield, and Thornbridge have taken. It's going to be like a Thornbridge and Friends bar, I think, and it's one of the old banks. So that's going to be really good. Because to be fair, Sheffield's brilliant. Like, we do a big meet up every year in Sheffield. We've done it for the last 3 years. In Sheffield, we've got all the sheddies and the listeners and stuff together, and we do a bar crawl. We've done it in Neep's End, which is the Kelham Island area of the city of Sheffield.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the thing about Sheffield. We've got hotspots of areas. I would say it's like, I know I'm from Sheffield, but I would say it's like Disneyland of beer world, because you've got these different hotspots, and you could spend, if you had 3 days, you could go to each of the hotspots and fill that day with bars, because in terms of craft beer and real ale and stuff, it's there. So the Neep's End area is where we've always tended to bring people. The other area is Abbeydale Road, and there's about 12 bars along there in like less than half a mile, and they're all sort of like craft ale bars, micro pubs, a couple of traditional pubs on there as well. So we're doing that this year as part of the Abbeydale Road Beer Festival that's been running for, I think this will be its 4th year coming up as well. So we're going to do that this year and take people there instead. So that's the south side. So it's all city centre, but one's north side of the city centre, that's Neep's End, and the other's the south side of the city centre. Now, in the middle, that's always been a little bit more sparse. So there's great bars there. You've got Triple Point Brewery. You've got some really good tap rooms and micro pubs in the town centre, but they're kind of like scattered a little bit. So there's a little bit more walking and zigzagging to get to them. So the fact that Thornbridge are going to slap a beer, another pub right in the middle of that's brilliant, because that'll really sort of close things up a little bit. And there's also another bar opening by a business and a bar that are also on Abbeydale Road called Two Thirds. So Two Thirds, they've had a bar open on Abbeydale Road for years now. Really great bar, really great couple of guys. One of them was in a band and then eventually grew up and got his own bar and stuff like that. So they're opening what's going to be one of the biggest beer halls in the UK, and we're talking like a European style beer hall with Budvar served straight from the tank. They're opening that this summer, and again, that's going to be in the centre as well. So it's really sort of like knitted things together a little bit. So it's going to be quite an exciting, year for Sheffield with those couple of bars opening. And it's a really good scene at the minute. So if anyone does come to Sheffield, definitely make sure you know where you're going first, because like I said, there's so many of these hot spots. You just want to make sure you get into the right, trying to do as much of it as you can, but maybe focusing on one area one day and then come back another day for one of the others. So
So I've been to Sheffield, and you're preaching to converted here, because I know Sheffield is a good drink. I used to go to Sheffield in numerous times without actually going to Sheffield, because we always used to change trains there going to football, unless we were going to Sheffield or whatever. But we never really got further than Sheffield Tap on the station, because it was good enough if we had an hour to change trains or whatever in there. I think the only other place we went to doing that, and the one time I stayed in Sheffield, I saw James in Sheffield, and we went to the Devonshire Cat, and I don't know if that's still open.
So no, Devonshire Cat's not anymore. No. So
that was a really good bar.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not there anymore. That closed a few. I mean, it is a bar now, but it's not really it's more of a sort of nighttime kind of place. It's not a sort of traditional what it was before. We've got like the Fat Cat, which is a famous Sheffield pub as well. That's the Kelham Island. So I mentioned Neep's End, but Neep's End and Kelham Island are sort of the same thing. Neep's End merges into Kelham Island, and Neep's End's where the more modern bars are, along with the Gardener's Rest, which is more traditional pub. But then as you carry on the road, you go into Kelham Island, and that's where you've got like the Fat Cat, the Kelham Island Tavern, the Harlequin, and kind of some more of the sort of traditional real ale places you'll find there. So it's a great stretch of bars to go to. You could easily spend 2 days there trying to get to everything.
I never went to enough when I was there. Just out of interest, and you're perfectly acceptable not to answer to this, but being from Sheffield, are you Blades or Owls?
I am an owl, and I'm quite literally an owl, and you'll have to guess what I mean by that. But if Pablo's listening, or anyone who follows the podcast and knows me, they'll know what I'm on about. So yeah, I'm an owl in many ways, and have been. I've been all my life, but I've been an owl in particular for 19 of those years that I've been following Sheffield Wednesday.
Fair play. My favourite story of going to Sheffield Wednesday was actually playing them on a Wednesday, which always amused me.
So your team, remind me.
My team is a little team from the far southwest of the UK called Plymouth Argyle.
Oh, a stretch. Yeah, why did they do that to us?
I know, and I'm neither from Plymouth or have any real connection apart from through friends to the area. So I've been all over the country supporting them for 26 years, and it's been a lot of fun because you get to go to great places like Sheffield and Mark Jones, who doesn't know what he's talking about because he's a Leeds United fan, says Leeds is better. We've had a little bit of banter about that because we played Leeds at the last game of the season. So
yeah, we've got a bit of a history, haven't we? Like a sort of friendly history, Plymouth and Wednesday in a weird way. Like we've been rivals because we've been, when we were in League One, I know we were sort of battling out for the thing. But then we've got. I think we had Sturrock, didn't we? After you had Sturrock and did really well.
Yeah.
And he's a brilliant manager. Well, he was. He's still a manager. He's still alive, but he doesn't manage anymore. I think he's got. I think he struggles with his health, doesn't he? Now I think he's got. He came to Hillsborough.
Basically, helps out. He's at Argyle quite a lot because he lives down there still. So
yeah. But he's a good guy. He was probably my. As a staff member working there, he was probably my first manager.
Right.
Yeah, when I stopped, because that would have been so he would have been my first manager, but he was really good and came back to Hillsborough not long ago actually and did a bit of a half, came out at half time and waved to the fans and he had a really nice statement that the club that they read out.
He's got a good yarn on him as well. He tells a good story, like
Does
that to keep the audience kind of thing. I'm going to try not to keep you too long, but I'm going to crack the third beer anyway because I'm out and it's time for beer number 3, please. So I'm keeping up with the musical references. I've got a couple of others in. I was trying to get a stout, and I have got a stout, but it's such a vague musical reference that I thought we'll stick with something a bit more kind of mainstream. I've gone with Now That's What I Call Sureshot, which is sort of attempting to go down the Now That's What I Call Music route. But it's another double dry hopped beer that I'm not too sure about. But I picked it up because of the musical reference.
It's so every one of the things that we've always started the podcast with, the first thing that you hear if you ever tune into an episode is a beer parody song. So I basically every week, and I kind of sometimes I wish I'd never started doing it because it means once you start something and it becomes a thing, then you can't not do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I basically choose a song and I rewrite. Yeah, I rewrite the lyrics to the song to link it back to beer in some way. So every year, between Christmas and New Year, when I'm not doing an episode, I put them all together on like one podcast episode and call that Now That's What I Call Ale and Audio. So if you want to go and listen to any of these parody songs, like I said, we were talking about the Everly Pregnant Brothers.
That's what you need them for, yeah.
Yeah, we do. There's all sorts of. I think one of the ones I did recently, I was quite impressed with was I think it was like I Want to Be a Hop Star. Nickelback wasn't it? And I basically rewrote lyrics. I want to own a tap room and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you go and listen to them, there are some quite silly ones. Tomorrow's parody songs. It comes out on Friday. It comes out at midnight the next episode. But it's called I've done I Will Survive, Gloria Gaynor. I've kind of themed it around going on a pub crawl with bigger people than me, sort of thing, and trying to survive a pub crawl. But yeah, it's quite. If you check them out, there's some of them are quite funny, really. So yeah.
One of my favourite beer and music anecdotes is always, and I've not got around to trying these beers, but do you remember the band Hanson, who had the song Mbop?
I do.
Well, they've now gone on to own. They set up their own brewery. Yeah, but they got the Hanson Brothers Brewery in Tulsa, and their leading beer, their pale ale, is called Hop.
Yes. Very good. Yeah.
I'd love to try that just because I love that dodgy pun anecdote.
Yeah.
But
that'd be an easy one to do, actually. Probably quite an easy parody song to do. Sometimes I get myself a right mess. I choose something I think would be a good idea, and I'm like, oh no, this is hard to write, or it's hard to sing. Yeah.
I'll tell you what I was going to talk about. And Pablo just reminded me earlier about Shedfest.
Oh yeah.
I've got two more things: Shedfest and pub quizzes. So let's do Shedfest first.
Yeah. So we did this. Obviously, the launch of Alien Radio was last April, and then we got to the sort of coming towards the summer last year. We thought, oh, what should we do? Should we, I don't know where the idea came from. It was a bit of a bonkers one, but I just said, why don't we change the output of the music on the station for a full weekend to live recorded music? So, there's loads of bands that have done live albums and, live sets, and you can easily find live recorded songs everywhere because, a lot of bands record them and that kind of thing. So we decided to switch the music output purely to live recordings for the full weekend, and then decided to go, right, let's make this a music festival that people can attend in their own back gardens. So, music and beer festivals in their own back gardens. So we did it as a, you can, put it on your radios, go out your back gardens, you can take your pictures. We did some badges, we did some stickers and stuff like that. We did all sorts of sort of like random stuff to make it like a festival. Even the jingles were changed to be kind of like that, speaker echoey sort of thing. So we did it all out like that. And you know what? It went down really, really well. And it was probably our best weekend for streaming in terms of like, how many people tuned in. Because I think it was sunny. It was, the weather was decent that weekend, I remember. And people could just put it on loud in the back gardens. And it was like they had their own music festival at home sort of thing, which was great. So we're definitely, we are doing it again this year. We've got the dates. I think it's Bank Holiday weekend in August. So if anyone wants to join and listen in, totally free. Of course, you can just tune in Alien Radio whenever, but it's all the music output is like recorded live stuff. And we have different stages as well. So, just like we do with the radio, we've got, general mixture of music and features throughout the day, but then we'll have certain hours where it's certain genres of music hosted by certain people. So we do the same at Shedfest, but we have like, it'll be the rock stage, or it'll be the 80s stage, or whatever, legend stage, or whatever. We'll put an hour of that kind of music on, and again, people can send the beer reviews in. And this year we're hoping to go a step further, and we're going to get a brewery on board, hopefully, to put us together a Shedfest box of beers, so that not actually brew new beers. We've done collabs, we've ticked that box, but if they could kind of put us a festival box together. And again, it will help us support an independent brewery. And, there's a few breweries that actually want to get involved in it. So there's probably going to be, a few other bits going on with that as well. And so I'm going to be starting a Facebook event for it soon. So if anyone's on Facebook and you want to kind of follow the updates, I'll make an event, because it seems to be quite a good platform for events. So I'll set that up. And I'll keep you posted. Join us at Shedfest. Yeah.
Get some beers in as well. I tell you what, this one is.
Saw your face when you when you first tasted it.
I've done the same. I do the same thing each time, and I did the same with Gimme Some. Really, it's that initial sort of hop burn, sort of grapefruity hit, and then it settles down. They always do, almost always settle down into something more fruity. But that's quite an immense beer from the off, because it's proper smooth in the mouth. It's proper creamy almost. There's a lot of flavors, really sweet, which I like. feels like there's like blueberry and lime and mango and all sorts of tropical fruit going on in a bit of a smoothie kind of thing. This is the first Sureshot beer I've actually ever got round to doing, mostly because I just assume them to be doing massive hop heavy pale ales that don't really sit on my palate well. So I don't sort of take the gamble on the 4, 5, 6 quid or whatever. But I did for this one because of the name of the beer. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Double dry hop, double IPA brewed with a double dipped helping of Nelson Sauvin T90, an amplifier, Motueka T90 amplifier, and hopkeef. And a hopkeef is a thing I've only seen in 1 or 2 beers. It's meant to just amplify everything anyway. Ruaka, Citra, and whatever HBC 1019 turns out to be. So, yeah, bit of a.
I'm a proper sucker for a New Zealand hop. Yeah, like this is the thing. Like when you know what you like, you go to bottle shops, you pick things up, and you look, and you end up getting them. Then if you know that if there's a Nelson Sauvin beer, I'm putting it in my basket. I'm having it. I love my New Zealand hops. I mean the one that I've enjoyed this past 9 months or so, and I had it first. It was actually Bayonet who gave me the first try of this that I'd had. Superdelic. That's another New Zealand hop. Fairly. It was probably in beers before, but like it probably had one of those H, whatever names. But Superdelic, I remember having it last September, and that's another one I really, really like as well. They just seem to suit me right down to the ground. That the sort of like grapey, gooseberry sort of. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, I never sort of seem to get that from Nelson. Mainly because I say today the beer we packaged today at the brewery is Nelson Sauvin and Motueka, and it's one they've been doing for 6 years and doing it really well, and I've drunk loads of it, but I still don't get that kind of wine, that white grape kind of gooseberry off it.
See, I don't like wine. It always surprises me because I've never liked wine, even white wine or anything like that. Not that it tastes like that, but it surprises me that I like it, but just do.
Sweet, yeah. This is actually really nice. Apart from that initial hop burn a little bit on it, it's settling down much sweeter and loads of different fruit flavors going on. Cool. The other thing I was going to briefly talk about, because you do a pub quiz as well.
Yeah. So one of the main features on the podcast is so we always there's always a similar structure to our show. We start off with a silly song that I've put together, do the introductions, then we go into we put Gimme Some on the Friday anthem. And then we normally head into a sort of feature section of the show. That could be anything. We've done a lot of like what we call taps and tracks episodes this past year. So that's where we get a brewery on and we ask them to pick 4 beers and 4 songs. And we've done some really good ones. We had the Emperor on, Emperor's Brewery. I was absolutely blown away to get Damien on, and he's such a good bloke. We have had Atom Brewery on. We've had Pretty Decent Brewery on. That was a really unique and pretty bonkers episode. We had Bayonet, obviously. Disruption is Brewing, Overtone. Who else have we had on? We've had loads, and we've got a really big one coming up actually, which I won't reveal just yet, but it's sort of booked in. We've got I think it's quite a big one anyway coming up. So that could be not every week, but that'll be in our feature section. Other weeks we might have an interview with someone. So we had the chief executive of SIBA on recently to talk about the Indie Beer campaign. We had Johnny Garrett from the Craft Beer Channel. He came on to talk about the UNESCO campaign to get cask ale recognised. We've had like Cask Mark's head trainer on. So in that sort of feature section, we can. I mean, this week we've got a couple of contributors went to the Norwich Craft Beer Festival, so we've got their feature from that on. And then we move into something called, and this is kind of the bread and butter of the podcast that we've been doing since we first found the Pub Shed people. We call it's now called the Chat Shit Shed. So
Yeah.
pretty much anything goes down, but there is a little bit of a structure. You know, we talk beer, we talk pub sheds, and one of the things we do is called it's just a pub quiz sort of thing, and it's about 4 or 5 questions, and it's normally topical stuff. So I scour the internet for beer news that week. Could be about pubs, could be about beer, could be about cocktails, could be about anything really that in any way links to beer. And then our, whoever's in the chat shit shed with me that week, usually Andy and Dave. Pablo joins us quite regularly as well. He's on this week's episode. Jan at the Box and Hounds, Andy, Andros and Abby have joined us quite a few times before. Yeah, we've had quite a few people in there with us. So they'll take on the quiz and they'll go against each other. Only 5 questions. And then, see who wins. But then we have other quizzes so we've got some other daft games. So we've had Sheds Under the Hammer. That's quite a popular one. So we find home bars on the internet that have, been put up for sale, and they've got to guess how much they are. Or even sort of, is it Breweriana? Breweriana, is it the sort of word for pub shed and, beer-related memorabilia, basically. So they've got to guess how much things sold for. We've got the weakest drink. So they've got to guess the ABVs from low to the highest of 6 beers that are put on screen. Sheddy Mercury. So do you remember Shooting Stars?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you remember Vic Reeves doing his club singer?
Yes, I was terrible at that. I could never understand what he was going on about that until much later.
Well, you'll be terrible at Sheddy Mercury again then, because we've got a character called Sheddy Mercury who I won't reveal who it is. Cough, cough. Pablo Escobar sings as a song that you've got to guess what it is. We've had Beer or Horse recently, where you've got to guess whether a beer name is actually a beer name or if it's a racehorse. We've got
great one.
We've got some really. We even did our own beer version of the Traitors, so the BBC's Traitors. So we have the people in the chat shit shed. I send them all a text message. 3 of them have got the same beer, so something they'll all know. So for example, it could be DIPA by Thornbridge, and one of them's got a Carlin, but they can't tell each other who's got what. They have to ask each other questions in turn and try and work out who's got, the person with the Carlin's got to stay undiscovered, and the others have got to work out who's who and so on. So then we've got all sorts of wacky games as part of it, and it's a lot of fun. We've had some. Oh, and we can't go without saying what's in Jan's box either. So Jan box. That's basically a 20 questions game. You got to guess what's in the box. It could be that one of the first ones we ever did was a corkscrew. It's anything you find in a pub shed, and sometimes it gets really funny because you can imagine some of the questions people are asking, and it's good fun.
So you like a good pub quiz yourself? Yeah. Are you a regular quiz player?
I don't get to as many.
Apart from Aiden audio, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm normally the quiz master on that, but I do get quizzed at the end by. The last bit of the podcast is called Pint After the Podcast, and that's where we sort of look over the song requests that have come in for the show, and we pick 3 out and talk about 3 of them in particular. And then Pat, who helps me do that, another pub shed owner, he does me a little music quiz based on those 3 songs he's picked out. So that is one. I do a bit of I do get to answer some of the music questions. So
because I love a random theme and random coincidences, this all kind of comes together. Because Pablo's in there asked what brewery I work for. I work for a brewery called Perivale Brewery, absolute tiny micro brewery in the West End of London. We're fairly small though. We just started expanding with a bigger tank, which is what we was working on today. Perivale Brewery.
On taps and tracks.
Yeah, we haven't yet. We've and when we actually get the can, we've got, as you said before about Bayonet having a duo. I think he must have been the same. We have a duo filler, two can lineup, do all the canning ourselves. We're only in 330, so once we get out a bit further, and then that's when we get out to stuff like that. But but I do. I got talked into doing the monthly pub quiz. We don't have a pub. We're all outside. We're on a farm basically in urban suburban London. So we don't have a pub. We don't have a bar. We do have a bar, but it's all outside in the courtyard of this farm. So I do the pub quiz. coming up on Sunday, by the way. So I'm sort of workshopping this. Do you fancy a quick
the guinea
pub
pig?
quiz?
Yeah.
Music?
Yeah, of course,
Yeah. So I'm doing a lyric round. I'm gonna base it on the Now albums. How are you with lyrics?
Not too bad, but I feel like I'll have to sing it to get it right, and I don't want to be doing that.
Well,
I'll do it in my head.
YouTube, I can't be playing music, so I don't think I can even do an intro round.
Course,
but I used to do it with I wouldn't sing it, but I'd do it more performance poetry style, often choosing different accents or whatever. But let's give it a shout. Right, basically name the song and name the band or artist. Living is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see. It's getting hard to be someone, but it all works out. It doesn't matter much to me. Play along in the chat as well if you know it. Put your answers there. See if you can beat Jimbo to that one.
No.
Very popular song. All these have been on Now albums at some stage. Bonus points if you can guess which Now album it was on.
No, it's going. I nearly went Bohemian Rhapsody at first, but I mean, I know every word to that, I'm sure, but it was just the matter to me sort of thing at the end that kind of caught me. But no, it's not that. I don't know.
The answer is literally in front of you.
The answer's in front of me?
Yeah.
Don't gimme some. No. Oh, Strawberry Field. No, I like the Beatles, but I'm not a Beatles mad fan. I mean, behind this poster, I do have like a Beatles poster behind that one, which I sometimes bring out, and it's got some doodles of different Beatles lyrics. So maybe I would have known if I'd
Well, to be fair, I didn't go back and find the lyrics for "Give Me Some," so that's not in one of the next ones. But just for shits and giggles, what album do you reckon? What Now album do you reckon that was on? It wasn't the Beatles version.
Yeah, not Now Beatles. Okay, let me say. Oh God. Wow, I didn't even know the Now albums went back that far.
They didn't. It wasn't the Beatles version of that song that was on the Now album.
Oh right, okay, right. I get you. I get what you're saying. Right, okay. So you say
who covered it? Who covered it? And what Now album was it on?
Oh God, I can't remember who covered it. I'm going to say it was Now 12.
Close. That was one of the best Now albums actually, but Now 17.
Oh,
okay. By a band called Andy Flip.
My lucky number as well, 17.
Yeah,
it really is.
So it is. Right, number 2. Slip inside the eye of your mind. Don't you know you might find a better place to play?
Don't look back. I'm trying to sing it. Don't look back in anger.
When you're writing quizzes, I think it's good to slip an easy-ish one in now and again.
Yeah.
Okay, so which Now album was that on?
Oh God, it's so difficult because what are we on now? I bet we're on. What are we even on now? I bet we're going to say now 23. No, I'm nowhere near. I bet it would be 417, weren't it? 23. Is
that your final answer?
Yeah.
It's kind of close. It was now 33.
Oh. Right. Okay. Now that helps though now because I know that one. So I've got that. If there's no more questions, then it's pointless. But I feel like I've got a thing in my head.
Which is some kind of record, right? Number 3.
Right.
Say it ain't so. I will not go. Turn the lights off. Carry me home.
Funny enough, that was the last song I was listening to on the punk pop show tonight, Punked Up Pints on Alien Radio, with Dave Hardy before I came onto this. So it's Blink 182 and it's All the Small Things.
It is indeed spot on. Which Now album was that on?
So we've just had 33. And what did they release? About 3 hours a year? Is it 2 or 3 hours a year? And that was 33. What Wonderwall? God, was it 94? I reckon Blink was maybe 98, 99. God, I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say now 52.
I love your logic and working out. None of my quizzes necessarily go in order, so it doesn't have to be in order. But it was, of course, now 45.
Oh, it's getting close. I was not too far. Yeah. I think if I'd had loads of time, which would have been boring, I would have tried to work it out more accurately. But I think there might be maybe 2 or 3 now albums a year. I don't know if that's still the same, but I remember it.
Yeah, I've never known how it works because we're now up to 125, and I haven't bought one for about 100 albums. So, okay, number 4. We'll do 5. Number 4, right? There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch. It's bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out, and I'll lay your shit bare.
Oh, can I have that again?
I sometimes go a bit like Winston Churchill with these. I don't know why, just to try and throw people off a little bit. There's a fire. There's a fire. Yes, indeed. Yes, that's how I do it. Good spot. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch. It's bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out, and I'll lay your shit bare.
Oh, this is annoying me. I know it.
It's an annoying song.
I know it. I know the lyrics. I just can't. I can't. Oh, that is so frustrating. like the first one, I just didn't know at all. Really, the others I've known. This one, I know I just can't pin. I can't pin. No, I'm gonna have to pass. I'm gonna kick myself here.
It's on nobody's favorite computer.
No one's favorite computer. Lost me there. Mac.
I'm surprised nobody put it in the comments. No, nobody's favorite computer. Adele.
Oh, wait, let me sing it through. Rolling in the Deep.
Yeah, Rolling in the Deep.
Got there in the end, yeah.
For a bonus point, which now album was that off of?
Oh, God, that's going to be... I reckon it's probably... I still reckon it's before the hundreds, though, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things you think, oh, that weren't long ago, and then you look at actually it were ages ago. So I'm going to say it was like 90. No, I'm going to say it's like 84.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant year, and I'm like, no. Sorry, now album 84. No, you're overthinking it. We've had 33 and 45, so that was off now 78.
Bloody hell!
And that's some kind of record.
Yeah.
One more?
Yeah. It's a good game, this.
I've actually got 3 more, but let's go for this one. Now, for 10 years, we've been on our own, and moss goes fat on a rolling stone. But that's not how it used to be when the jester sang for the king and queen.
Yeah, I might have to say I'm not going to get this one.
Bit older to be fair.
Yeah, do it again. Do it one more time.
Now, for 10 years, we've been on our own, and moss goes fat on a rolling stone. But that's not how it used to be when the jester sang for the king and queen.
Yeah, I might have to. The only thing I've got, and it's not, is it sounded a bit Bob Dylan-esque, but then it's like that might be just because of the Rolling Stone sort of thing.
You're on the right lines. You're on right sort of right lines, but yeah.
Pass.
That was Don McLean's American Pie.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. It was a long time ago.
Exactly. Off of one of the best Now That's What I Call Music albums, which was
right, let me try and piece this together. And this is Don McLean version, is it?
Yeah.
Not the Madonna version.
Not the terrible Madonna version. Yeah, that's a great show. I'm glad somebody remembered that.
Yeah. So what did I say before? You said it was a really good one. Did I say? I don't know. I said 12, didn't I? So let's go 12.
12 was a good one. I was at school and there was a lot of really good cheese on that. No, that was actually now 20, which was one of the best. One more.
Go on, one more.
Give me one more chance and you'll be satisfied. Give me 2 more chances. You won't be denied. Very well-known band, less well-known song, maybe.
Oh, that's annoying. That again, that's a bit like the Adele one. Like I recognize. Yeah. I just can't pinpoint it. Well-known band, maybe not as well-known a song. Could you give me an era, a decade?
It's a band that has spanned at least 3 decades, starting in the very late 70s. I think this was probably late 80s, I think. Definitely the 80s, anyway.
Oh no, it's fine. I end up getting Beatles in my head then because they've got a song. Na, 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 na. I was thinking "Can't Buy Me Love."
Yeah. No. Yeah, I know exactly. Keep me satisfied rather than denied.
Yeah. So So you're saying 70s, 80s.
Mostly 80s. Probably more well known in the 90s, I guess.
Okay. I don't know. It's not going to be something like Pearl Jam or something like that. Madness, maybe.
Close-ish, but different one continent. But yeah, that kind of rock kind of stuff.
All right. Okay. So like the Who? No, because they've been around even longer. There's someone else who always get mixed up with Pearl Jam, and no, I can't get it. Pass.
It was U2.
Oh, U2.
Even better than The Real Thing.
Still got their album I never wanted.
And to save you guessing, that was off Now 22, which is another really good album from my childhood. But yeah, there you go. That was 7. I've got an 8th, but time's ticking on.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to get any better.
To be fair, if I'm terrible I'm better at reading quizzes because I forget shit, but I know the most random of things, and I forget important stuff. So I quite like doing quizzes, but because I've got into doing this monthly quiz at the brewery, it's like it's easier when you've got the answers, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm having a taste of my own medicine here from the quizzes that I do on the podcast. So yeah.
Well, I'll partake in quizzes anytime. Like it's kind of fun, but yeah, I'm generally terrible myself. So like, yeah, I think you've done pretty well, to be fair, and I love your working out.
Thank you.
I wouldn't know what Now albums were from what years, to be fair. So yeah. Well, I've taken up an hour and a half of your time, so thank you very much indeed for that, coming along, having a beer, having a general chat.
No, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. It's been good, and it's a couple of. Don't normally have. I might have maybe. Yeah, I don't always have one on a Thursday night. But yeah, so it's been a nice couple of bonus beers for me this week. So
yeah. I'm a little bit. I mean, I do drink during the week because I don't have to get up early for work. So like, I've got an 11 o'clock start tomorrow, so should be okay.
Oh,
but back on the brewing, but
yeah. And we'll get Perryvale.
Yeah.
We'll get them on. Because when I first saw that, I thought, oh, Perryville, because I kind of had Castleton in my head because there's Perryville Castle in Castleton.
Okay.
But yeah, and obviously you're down in London. But yeah, we'll have to get Perryvale on Taps and Tracks one day in future.
Yeah, happily days. Yeah, Perryvale. Nobody's ever heard of Perryvale unless you're a Doctor Who fan. One of the episodes with Sylvester McCoy,
right?
The Ace was from Perryvale, and they filmed a lot around there and said nothing ever happens in Perryvale, but now it does. So thank you very much indeed. Thanks to everybody who's watching, chimed in with the comments. I will put all the links in down the bottom to the videos and stuff on YouTube. Cheers for sharing the stuff as well on Instagram today. Amongst all the many things you've had to post on Instagram today.
Oh, Thursdays is a right day. Yeah, I mean, it's like a big sigh of relief on Friday because that's my, podcast is done. It's just chill on Friday. I refresh the radio content and, but other than that, Friday's sort of like just chill out day.
And of course, if anybody else from the Alien Audio stable, like Pablo Disco Bar, I need to chat to Spenno at some point as well.
Oh, he's brilliant, yeah.
But if anybody else wants to come over to the Disco Arms for a chat, I've been doing it kind of on my own for a year, and I do prefer chatting to people live, kind of thing, as well as all the great people in the comments. By the way, cheers, Mr. Wilson, etc. But if anybody else wants to come for a chat, give me a shout. I'm kind of all ears, You
get Spenno on, you'll be here gone midnight, probably till early hours.
Well, let's see how good he is with the lyrics.
Yeah.
I'll find some other stuff. Yeah, so Jimbo, thank you very much indeed. As I say, thank you for my beers. I will hopefully at some point get that video out on the channel about the story of how the beers eventually got to me. And stuff like that. I've got a few things lined up for that. No fault of your own because you've sent them to me. It's just Royal Mail and stuff like that. But yeah. Thanks very much indeed. I have a little outro, so bear with me. We'll do the outro and stay there. I'll come back to you afterwards. Cheers, everybody. Cheers all. And as always, say cheers and everyone. Enjoy the beers. Cheers.